everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with me. Today, we're going to be looking at cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and more specifically, the science behind it.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at cell death, DNA replication, and kind of try to figure out, why we aren't just, covered in tumors from the moment we're born.
Right.
And the source material for this deep dive is this video I found, and it's actually pretty interesting.
Oh, cool.
It's got this really neat visual of a Stirling engine that it uses as an example of how our body generates heat.
Oh, yeah. I saw that part.
And
I thought that was a really clever analogy.
yeah, for sure.
Our bodies are just constantly moving, breaking down and rebuilding at the cellular level.
Right. And speaking of that, did you see that part in the video where it mentions that 80% of household dust is just dead human skin?
Yeah, kind of freaky, right?
Yeah, it's a little creepy, but also kind of amazing when you think about just how many cells our bodies are constantly churning through.
Definitely, yeah. And with every cell division, there's a chance for errors in DNA replication. And that's where things get really interesting because these errors or mutations are what can sometimes lead to cancer,
Right. The video actually put a number on those errors, 120,000 every time a cell divides.
Wow.
Yeah. So, how do our bodies even function with that many mistakes happening all the time?
Well, I mean, the thing is, most of those errors, they're harmless.
Okay.
Our bodies, they've evolved these really complex systems for proofreading and repairing DNA. It's like that autocorrect feature on our phones.
Oh, so our cells have a built-in spell check.
Pretty much. But as we all know, autocorrect isn't perfect. Sometimes those errors slip through.
Right. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and so when a mutation happens to the genes that control cell growth and division, that's when you can get uncontrolled cell growth.
Which is how cancer starts.
Exactly. These rogue cells, they just ignore all the signals to stop dividing,
Mm-hmm.
and they just keep growing, taking resources, and even hijacking the body's blood supply to fuel their growth.
That makes sense. The video had this analogy of a cell becoming unsticked from its original location. I thought that was a really good way to visualize it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And that ability to spread, metastasize.
Yeah.
That's what makes cancer so dangerous.
For sure. And, speaking of things that can damage DNA and lead to those mutations, the video shows this truck driver who has all this sun damage on just one side of his face,
Yeah.
which is just a crazy visual reminder of how much our environment can actually influence our risk of cancer.
It really is. And, that reminds me of something completely random, but I was reading about how giraffes have black tongues.
What?
Yeah. It's like an evolutionary thing to protect them from sun damage.
That is so weird.
Right. But it's interesting to think about how evolution has shaped different species to deal with those environmental challenges, including the ones that can damage DNA.
Right. Okay, so back to humans, though.
Yeah.
If errors in DNA are so common and they can lead to cancer, why aren't we all just riddled with it from the moment we're born?
That is a great question. And the video actually addresses that they talk about this thing called the selection shadow.
The selection shadow.
Yeah. Have you heard of that?
I don't think so.
Okay, so basically it means that natural selection, it's less effective on traits that affect us later in life,
Yeah.
after we've already reproduced and passed on our genes.
So evolution doesn't really care what happens to us after we've had kids.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that means things like cancer, which usually develop later in life, they haven't really been weeded out by natural selection.
Exactly. The video uses this comparison of mice and bats.
Okay.
So mice, they only live for a few years, even in perfect conditions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but bats, on the other hand, can live for decades. And that difference in lifespan, it actually shows up in how susceptible they are to age-related diseases.
Oh, so bats with their longer lifespans have had more time for natural selection to get rid of mutations that cause problems later in life.
Right, whereas mice with their shorter lifespans, they haven't had that chance.
Interesting. So are humans more like mice or bats in this case?
Well, we definitely fall into that selection shadow like bats because we have relatively long lifespans.
Okay.
But there's a key difference between us and bats.
What's that?
We have brains.
Ha ha. Okay.
No, seriously, though, we've developed this incredibly powerful tool to combat the downsides of living longer, our intelligence.
Right.
We've used our brains to develop things like science and medicine.
It's like we're picking up where natural selection left off.
Exactly. And that's where the discussion of cancer treatments comes in. The video highlights how much progress we've made.
Right. 40 years ago, only 1 in 4 people survived 10 years after a cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, now it's 2 in 4, and it's projected to be 3 in 4 in the next 20 years.
Wow, that's a huge improvement.
It really is. But the video also makes a point of saying that cancer, it's not just one disease.
Right.
So we shouldn't expect to find just one single cure.
Right. It's more complicated than that.
Exactly. The complexity of cancer means we need to take a more multifaceted approach.
I see.
So what aspects of that approach kind of stood out to you?
Well, one of the things that really caught my attention was just the different types of cancer treatments that were mentioned, like chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and even immunotherapy.
Oh, yeah,
Seems like we're constantly developing new ways to target cancer cells.
absolutely. And as we learn more about the specific genetic mutations and molecular pathways that are driving each type of cancer, we can develop even more targeted and effective therapies.
That's amazing. And beyond those high-tech treatments, what about preventative measures, What can people do to reduce their risk of developing cancer in the first place?
Right. Well, that's a crucial part of the conversation for sure. And the video points out how much lifestyle factors can play a role.
Like what?
Well, things like quitting smoking, maintaining a healthy weight, and limiting alcohol intake can have a massive impact on reducing cancer risk.
Makes sense. What about environmental factors? We talked about sun damage earlier. Are there other things in our environment we should be aware of?
Definitely, exposure to certain chemicals and pollutants can also increase your risk of cancer.
Hmm.
The video gives an example of how things like refrigeration and sanitation have actually helped to reduce stomach cancers caused by
Oh,
infection.
wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how these public health measures have also played a role in cancer prevention.
It really highlights how this is like a multi-pronged effort. It's not just about finding some magic bullet cure, but combining advances in treatment with lifestyle changes and public health initiatives.
Exactly. And that's where the videos shift in perspective from this war on cancer
Mm.
to a more nuanced approach of managing a complex biological system is so important.
Okay.
It's not about trying to eradicate every single cancer cell.
Yeah.
It's about controlling and managing the disease so people can live longer, healthier lives.
So instead of viewing cancer as this enemy that we need to vanquish, we need to think of it as like a part of our biology that we need to understand and manage.
Yeah, exactly. It's a more realistic and I think ultimately more hopeful way of looking at it.
For sure, it acknowledges the complexity of the challenge, but it also emphasizes the power of human ingenuity and our ability to make progress.
Right.
And speaking of ingenuity, I loved that example in the video about the connection between particle physics and cancer treatment.
Oh, yeah.
Who would have thought that research at the Large Hadron Collider would lead to advancements in proton beam therapy for eye tumors?
It's a perfect example of how seemingly unrelated fields of study can come together to create these unexpected breakthroughs.
Definitely, and it speaks to the importance of scientific collaboration and open-mindedness.
Absolutely. You never know where the next big discovery is going to come from.
That's so true, and it really underscores how we're all part of this interconnected web of knowledge and discovery, and it brings us back to that powerful analogy the video used, the relay race.
Yes, natural selection has given us an amazing starting point. But now it's our turn to take the baton and use our knowledge, our science, our collective effort to push forward.
And it's not just about scientists and labs. It feels like each of us has a role to play in this relay race for health.
Absolutely. It starts with individual choices being formed about our health. Yeah. And healthy lifestyle choices, being proactive about screenings and early detection. But it extends beyond that.
To advocating for policies that support research, maybe even participating in clinical trials or just talking to our friends and family about the importance of prevention and early detection.
Exactly. It's a collective effort, a shared responsibility to move the needle forward.
Right.
And the video really leaves us with this thought-provoking question about what other fields might hold the key to future cancer breakthroughs.
It's a question that makes you realize how much we don't know yet, but also how much potential there is for future discoveries. What stood out to you as the biggest takeaway from this deep dive?
For me, it's the shift in perspective, moving away from this idea of a war on cancer to a more nuanced understanding of managing a complex biological system. It feels like a more realistic and ultimately more hopeful approach.
I completely agree. It's not about conquering an enemy, but about working with our own biology to achieve the best possible outcomes. And that's a message that I think everyone can take away from this deep dive. So to our listeners, as you continue your own journey of learning and discovery, we leave you with this: what piques your curiosity in this field? What knowledge will you seek out? What choices will you make to contribute to this ongoing relay race for health? Because every step we take, every question we ask brings us closer to a future where diseases like cancer no longer hold the same power. Thanks for joining us. Are humans more like mice or bats in this case?
Well, we definitely fall into that selection shadow like bats, because we have relatively long lifespans.
Okay.
But there's a key difference between us and bats.
What's that?
We have brains.
Uh-huh. Okay.
No, but seriously, we've developed this like incredibly powerful tool to combat the downsides of living longer or intelligent.
Right, we've used our brains to develop science and medicine.
Exactly. It's like we're picking up where natural selection left off.
Right, and that brings us to the discussion of cancer treatments.
Yeah.
And the video highlights all this amazing progress that's been made like 40 years ago. Only 1 in 4 people survive 10 years after being diagnosed with cancer.
And now it's 2 and 4.
Wow.
And it's projected to be 3 and 4 in the next 20 years.
That's a huge improvement.
It really is.
Yeah.
But the video also makes it clear that cancer isn't just one disease.
Right.
So we shouldn't expect to find just one single cure-all, you know?
Right, it's way more complicated than that.
Exactly. The complexity of cancer means we need to take a more multifaceted approach.
Makes sense.
What aspects of that approach kind of stood out to you?
Well, one of the things that I found really interesting was just like the different types of cancer treatments that were mentioned, like chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and even immunotherapy.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like we're constantly developing new ways to like target cancer cells.
For sure. And as we learn more about the specific genetic mutations and molecular pathways that are driving each type of cancer,
Right.
we can develop even more targeted and effective therapies.
Wow, that's amazing. So beyond all those high-tech treatments, what about preventative measures?
Yeah.
Like what can people do to reduce their risk of getting cancer in the first place?
Right. That's a huge part of the conversation. And the video talks about how important lifestyle factors are.
Like what kind of things?
Well, things like quitting smoking,
Okay.
maintaining a healthy weight, and limiting alcohol intake, those can all have a massive impact on reducing your risk of developing cancer.
That makes sense. And what about environmental factors? We talked about sun damage earlier. Are there other things in our environment we should be aware of?
Definitely exposure to certain chemicals and pollutants can also increase your risk.
Hmm.
The video gives the example of how refrigeration and sanitation have actually helped reduce stomach cancers that are caused by infection.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how those kinds of public health measures have also played a role in cancer prevention.
Yeah, for sure. It really highlights how this is like a multi-pronged effort.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding that one magic bullet cure.
Mm.
It's about combining advances in treatment with lifestyle changes and public health initiatives.
Exactly. And that's where the videos shift in perspective from this war on cancer to a more nuanced approach of managing a complex biological system is so important.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about trying to eradicate every single cancer cell.
Right.
It's about controlling and managing the disease so that people can live longer, healthier lives.
So instead of seeing cancer as this enemy that we need to like completely destroy, we need to think of it as a part of our biology that we need to understand and manage.
Right. It's a much more realistic and I think ultimately more hopeful way of looking at it.
Definitely, it acknowledges just how complex this challenge is, but it also emphasizes like the power of human ingenuity and our ability to keep making progress.
For sure.
And speaking of ingenuity, I love that example in the video about the connection between particle physics and cancer treatment.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, who would have thought that research at the Large Hadron Collider could actually lead to advancements in proton beam therapy for eye tumors?
It's crazy, right?
Mm.
It's a perfect example of how these seemingly unrelated fields of study can come together to create totally unexpected breakthroughs.
Yeah, it really is. And it shows just how important scientific collaboration and open-mindedness are.
That you just never know where the next big discovery is going to come from.
Yeah, it really highlights like how we're all part of this giant web of knowledge and discovery.
Definitely.
And it brings us back to that really powerful analogy that the video used the relay race.
Yeah, natural selection has given us like a really great starting point, but now it's our turn to kind of take the baton
Yeah.
and use all our knowledge and science, you know, our collective effort to keep moving forward.
And it's not just about scientists in labs, right?
Right.
It feels like each of us, like individually, has a part to play in this relay race for health.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely starts with like individual choices.
Right.
You know, being informed about our own health, making healthy lifestyle choices, being proactive about screenings and early detection.
Yeah.
But it goes way beyond that too.
Like advocating for policies that support research.
Yes.
Maybe even participating in clinical trials, or even just like talking to our friends and family about like how important prevention and early detection are.
Exactly. It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
You know, it's a shared responsibility to like keep pushing things forward.
Yeah.
And, the video ends with this really thought-provoking question about what other fields might hold the key to future breakthroughs in cancer research.
It's a question that makes you realize, like, how much we still don't know,
Yeah,
but also, like, how much potential there is for future discoveries.
for sure.
What stood out to you as, like, the biggest takeaway from this whole deep dive?
Hmm. I think for me, it's that shift in perspective,
Oh,
moving away from this idea of like a war on cancer
right.
to a more nuanced understanding of like, you know, managing a complex biological system. It just feels like a more realistic and ultimately more hopeful approach.
I totally agree. It's not about conquering an enemy.
Hmm.
It's about working with our own biology to try to achieve the best possible outcomes.
Right.
And I think that's a message that everyone can take away from this deep dive.
Definitely.
So to all our listeners out there, as you continue on your own journey of learning and discovery, we want to leave you with this.
Okay.
What is it that makes you curious about this field?
Yeah.
What knowledge will you seek out? What choices will you make to contribute to this ongoing relay race for health?
Because every step we take,
Mm-hmm.
every question we ask, brings us closer to a future where diseases like cancer no longer hold the same power.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us, everyone.